This is amazing. Yeah, I wonder where else again.
I've been here since the very beginning, and I would love to tell you the story because it's very important to me. In the middle of the 80s, Elizabeth worked as an editor in a publicity agency in Manhattan. She booked a vacation to Mexico expecting to fly into Villahermosa, but bad weather forced her to fly into Merida, where she stayed at a hotel in the center of the city. In time, she would return to Merida several times to enjoy the peace and quiet while she finished her first novel. It was in Merida that she met and fell in love with a Yucatecan man, and they got married in 1989. 1989? Can you picture it? Can you picture Merida when there wasn't a lot of technology around? Elizabeth eventually moved to Merida with her 2 children, but she felt something was missing. Her life didn't quite feel complete. Being a reader and a writer, you can imagine what she missed the most: a library, but a library with books in English. She had been used to libraries from her earliest childhood and quite simply could not imagine living in a place without one close by. Okay, she thought, if there is no English language library here, then I'll just start one. At the next meeting of the International Women's Club, she happily proposed starting an English language library without any idea of how to get started or the work it would involve. She was happily surprised when the club members loved the idea and looked to her to make the dream a reality. At that point, she was joined by me, her partner in crime, Chloe Conaway de Pacheco. Elizabeth recruited volunteers and created the to-do list, while I used my local knowledge and contacts to navigate the legal system and comply with all the requirements to formally set up the organization as an Asociación Civil, a registered nonprofit legal entity in the state of the Yucatan. Officially known as the Merida English Library, for a time there was a variant name, the Merida English Language Library. A bit redundant, wasn't it? Fortunately, that name never caught on, which made us happy. The organizers also had a contest for local graphic designers to design the first logo, which has been changed several times over the years. I knew a woman, Ellie Godotti, who had purchased a small house on Calle 53, although she continued to spend her time working in the U.S. Ellie offered us the loan of her house, and it became the first home of the Merida English Library. We made many friends along the way, asking for donations for bookshelves, which are the ones you see when you walk in the library doors today. We also received donations of some metal bookshelves from local businesses that were discarding them. People offered a desk, a chair, a filing cabinet. Elizabeth asked the IWC members to donate any books they had in English. Pretty soon, we had everything we needed except visitors. Elizabeth went into the library, opened the door, took her seat, and waited. No one came in. She closed up and repeated the process the next day and then day after day. The few expats living in Merida didn't think about going to the library. They went to the beach or to museums. And so the days passed, with the only visitors being a few women donating books. The internet would have made things a lot easier, but without it, how would people even know there was a library? Marilyn Smith was one of the first American residents to visit the library frequently. She had a lot of ideas to improve it, suggesting a children's room with bookshelves, a small table, and chairs. And it became clear immediately that Marilyn needed to join our team, bringing her passion and enthusiasm to the project. Marilyn set up the children's area and became the library's first reference librarian. She was a learned woman who appreciated the part a library could play in people's lives. People began to appreciate what the library was becoming, and one by one, voice by voice, it was becoming a community center, a place to go. And eventually, very soon, an idea came for the first fundraiser, a Tennessee-style barbecue. The Barrueta family lent their house and garden, and volunteers prepared the barbecue meal, There were drinks, raffles, and more. Volunteers sold tickets to the event as well as raffle tickets. Attendance was good and people had a great time. They raised enough money to buy the first item on the wish list, the Encyclopedia Britannica. I know, today it's obsolete, but at the time, without the internet, encyclopedias were an essential resource for a library. The library began to grow, and Ellie's house did not have enough space for all the furniture and donated books. It was time for a move. My husband, Jorge Pacheco Wehebe, offered the use of a house he owned on the other side of town. At the same time, Bob and Polly Williams reached out to a library in Ames, Iowa. Thanks to Polly's love of reading and libraries, the Ames Public Library became a sister library of Mel. The Ames Library spread the word that volunteer librarians were needed to travel to Merida and teach the Mel volunteers how to set up and run a library. They sent 4 librarians over the course of time, the first of whom was the late Gloria Cast, whose specialty was how to move a library, and that referred to organizing the moving of a library. She presented a task that involved more planning and measuring than you can possibly imagine: how to pack the books and label the cartons, then where to put the bookcases, unpack and arrange the books in order, and organize and label them. Can you believe it? Before Gloria, none of us really knew how to order and set up a library. Thank you so much for your help, Gloria. Once the library was organized, the move took place, and that was a good decision to have a larger space. The library did not stop growing, and more volunteers arrived from the U.S. to show the Mel volunteers how to manage operations. Above all, the meaning of what a library is changed for the whole world with the arrival of the internet. Amazon, Kindle, and other internet resources made that sacred treasure, the Encyclopedia Britannica, sadly obsolete. No one had to go to a library to consult an encyclopedia, so Mel changed directions and adapted, focusing on acquiring computers. The first computer was donated by Anita Aguilar, a Merida author, and her donation was covered by the Diario de Yucatan, free publicity. And Mel began to hold an annual fundraising event called the Chili Cook-Off. This was Polly Williams' idea. She thought that such a thing would be popular among expats as well as local folks, and so it was. Everyone loved to cook, compete, and of course to eat. There were raffles, entertainment, and large tables full of people enjoying themselves. The Chili Cook-Off grew, and each year the organizers had to find a larger space. And each year the event was organized and enjoyed with the same passion as the first time. Everything went on as normal with the usual ups and downs. Then suddenly Marilyn Smith died, a huge loss for Mel, an event that had a huge impact on its future. Because Marilyn so loved the library that under the terms of her will, she bequeathed her house to Mel to be the new permanent home of the library. It was an enormous surprise to everyone, and with love and pride, the gift was accepted, and Marilyn's house became the library's new home, where it remains to this day. The house needed some adjustments and repairs to be converted into a library, but once that was done, a grand reopening was held. There was a ceremonial ribbon cutting, various receptions in the library, and volunteer recognition ceremonies, all covered by the press. Each time there was more local and international recognition. Mel became the place to go. All of this happened because the founding team and all those devoted volunteers knew that Merida needed and deserved an English language library. Elizabeth eventually decided that it was time to step away, because a library needs to keep growing. She explained her decision by saying, "My sense is that an institution is only healthy if it can live without its founder. The whole point is to create something that will live on without you." She knew it was time for her to step away. As time went on, all the people involved with Mel came together to take care of all that it represented, continuing the existing events and creating more, growing and innovating along with the people who loved visiting this library. From the first library program, Conversaciones con Amigos, other programs followed. Wine tasting, house and garden tours, then Mel Nights, Story Time, the Santa Ana Art Gallery tours, and more. These programs continue to this day at Mel, and because of their great popularity, Mel has continued to grow and reinvent itself with each challenge. Now there is a large team of staff and volunteers, both local and foreigners, who every day give them themselves to support this place, which has had to adapt to the internet and social media. From an occasional article in the newspaper, Mel has grown to have its own web page and an active social media presence. From this amazing story and this interesting early history, it only remains to wait and see what other surprises await and what new stories will be told. So what do you think?
Wow, that's fascinating. Thanks for sharing that with us.
It's such an interesting story.
I love to tell this story. It's very important to me.